Hello and welcome to the Customer Journey webinar. This is part of a series of webinars aimed at helping to optimize and get better ROI on your customer experiences. In today's session, we will look at specifically how to take customer experience research that you have done, such as customer personas and customer journey maps, to build a digital CX strategy, and how you can do that using Sitecore tools. So quickly, some introductions. My name is Balakrishnan, and I am the Sales Engineering Manager for Sitecore in the Asia region across India, Southeast Asia, and China. So my role is to help our prospects and customers solution the best combination of Sitecore tools to solve their problems. Now, today I will be presenting alongside my colleague Alison. So, Alison, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Brian. My name is Alison Sainsbury, and I am Director of Sitecore's Business Value and Strategy team for the Asia Pacific Japan. My primary role is as the lead consultant of our Sitecore Business Optimization Strategies team, or SBOS for short. I work with a number of Sitecore customers across Asia Pacific and globally, helping them implement their personalization and testing on their Sitecore instances.
Thanks, Alison. Right, so Sitecore, we are a leading provider of digital experience and content management software. And what we're trying to do is help organizations make meaningful connections with their customers. Sitecore helps organizations create the best possible digital experience, turning content, personalization, commerce, and customer data into actionable insights. So, before we dive in to the digital relevancy mapping, I'll hand over to Alison to take you forward.
Thanks, Biren. So yeah, before we get into digital relevancy mapping, we want to start with looking at why this is important to you. So what is the impact of a great customer experience, and how has that changed in the last 12 months? In 2018, research by Avanade and Sitecore found that investing in customer experience can increase revenue by 19%. And for every $1 invested on improving the customer experience, brands gained a return of $3. Now, Sitecore and Avanade forecast, based on our experience and benchmarks of the rate of change in digital experience, that the impact would look like this in 2022 and beyond, while the business as usual approach would continue to decline pretty steadily. Now, what I want you to do is look at that green line and imagine what that would look like in 2030. So have you got that? Good. Because the customer that was supposed to turn up in 2030 turned up in 2020. And not by choice, but driven by a world that needed to switch to digital-only engagement to survive and thrive. And of course, we're not the only people who have noticed this. This 2021 customer is a customer that is now comfortable in making decisions based on digital-only engagement, as in many cases, offline engagement is no longer an option. This customer wants to be inspired, assisted, and convinced throughout the entire journey. They expect that engagement with the brand will be made easy as well as safe for them, and that they will be rewarded for their loyalty. This customer of the future, who is here now, is forcing brands to be more experience-centric. So what's the problem? Aren't brands delivering great experiences already? Well, apparently not. It looks like brands think that they are, whereas customers don't believe that they do. And how do we know this? Well, we talk to our customers and to their customers and to your customers. Sitecore's customers are grappling with multiple challenges and opportunities as they prepare themselves for the future of engaging with their customers. In talking with organizations over the last year, we have found that they have empowered customers demanding the experiences that they feel that they deserve. Customers are comparing one digital experience with another, irrespective of the brand that they are engaging with and the industry that the brand represents. But at the same time, the customers are time poor. They're focused on convenience, but they want to make informed decisions as they progress throughout their journey. So they expect relevant and rich content in whichever channel they are in. Now, don't waste their time because they don't have much of it. Brands that cater to this are rewarded with higher engagement and customer attention. Now, if you combine high expectations focused on the digital channel with very little time, you get digital fatigue. This means brands have to put in the extra effort to stand out and to differentiate amongst all the noise. You do that through unique digital products and experiences. Good enough is no longer good enough. In addition, for organisations, of course, new ways of remote working and collaborating across the enterprise are necessary for survival. And the end result is that experience effectiveness and experience efficiency are as important as experience aesthetics. With the budgets under pressure, delivering all of the above within the budget envelope means brands remain very, very closely focused on return on investment and efficiency. So how do you satisfy all those needs at once? Well, you do it with a strong customer experience aligned plan and a MarTech stack that will make it possible, a digital relevancy map, and of course, Sitecore. So the digital relevancy map, it's a really useful planning framework created by the SBOSS team, who for more than a decade have worked with hundreds of customers around the world to help them implement customer experience transformation. The digital relevancy map, or DRM, will make sure that you have what you need to offer the right customer, the right content at the right time, which of course is the core of great customer experience. The DRM will capture the crucial content and functionality you need for each step of the journey for your major segments. And completion of the DRM helps you prioritise the content and functionality needed for those top segments. It informs your content planning efforts. As you optimise for each segment and measure the results the content gets, you'll continue to build on the initial DRM planning to shape your content priorities. And building it with a diverse team of stakeholders, it then builds internal alignment and a keen focus on the external user rather than internal priorities. You'll know what you need and for who and why, which is essential for real customer experience-centred thinking to be embedded in your organisation. Creating a DRM is like all worthwhile customer experience efforts, a bit of work, but it's quite doable, and it builds upon work that you've likely already done, such as creating customer profiles and customer journeys. However, this is work that's absolutely crucial to be done to deliver the experience your customers demand. So it's going to help you identify missing content and functionality, as well as the optimal channel, and it'll tell you where and what to test to improve engagement and conversion rates, gaining organisational alignment around context marketing and the customer experience, and enabling your developers to focus on customer and user intent, as well as appropriate goals and calls to action for each stage in the life cycle. It's going to allow you to focus your marketing on the 20% of content that is responsible for 80% of engagement and reduce random acts of content, which then accelerates your customers through their journey by building a better customer experience. Sounds like something you need? Great. Let's look at how to create one. So there are 3 key stages to creating a digital relevancy map. Step 1 is identifying and defining your key customer segments. Step 2 is developing a customer journey map for these segments. And step 3 is putting them together to create the DRM. Now, we're going to look at each of these steps and explore how Sitecore Experience Platform empowers you to bring the DRM to life. But of course, we only have so much time and there's a lot to do. So please do look out for the Digital Relevancy Map white paper, which will be sent to you after the webinar. To work through the steps, we're going to use a sample marketing campaign just to give us a bit of a foundation to work off. So in this journey, an appliance company is promoting a home automation webinar to customers, including a promoted post on Facebook. As people visit from the campaign, they are going to the homepage, signing up for the webinar and receiving a confirmation email. Now from the confirmation email, they click through, they read some articles, they look at products, and maybe they download a relevant guide. Prior to the webinar, they are sent a reminder email and a thank you email afterwards if they have attended the webinar. And then from the thank you email, some customers, hopefully lots of them, return to the homepage of the site and are prompted to request a consultation, which then leads to a booking confirmation email and conversion to a sale. That's our customer journey. We're going to use that to plan out our digital relevancy map today. So the first step is to select and characterize the customer segments. Now, I'm going to spend some time on this step because it's very important to understand how segments are identified, described, and prioritized in Sitecore. You may or may not have detailed customer profiles built out for your business, but how do you take those and translate them into an actionable segment in Sitecore? Well, you use the data. Now, before we get into that, there should be a poll up on your screen. What we want to know is, are you currently using any tools to evaluate and characterize your customer segments? And I'll give you a few seconds to fill that out.
Great. And while you're filling that out, if there are any additional questions you'd like to ask, please put them into the chat and we can address them once we get to the Q&A section.
Okay, so let's move on. In Sitecore, we'll come back to the poll questions and poll answers later. So in Sitecore, every interaction the customer has with your site is recorded, and with configuration, this becomes a really rich data set that you can use to create a customer segment. Everything the customer does, the content they interact with, the goals they trigger, the campaigns that they respond to, even the results of the tests that they are exposed to, the channels and devices and locations, all of this is available to create a customer segment, a group of visitors who share similar characteristics and who would benefit from the same experience. Now, this is all available within the Sitecore toolbox, integrated, and each piece of functionality built by the Sitecore team to operate smoothly with each other. To make it easier then to identify quick wins from all this data, SBOSS created the customer data value curve. So it's important here to remember a couple of key things about the data before we get into it. As you get access to more data, the effort involved with implementing it increases. However, the expected value for your customer as well as for your business goes up. But let's start simple with some default data. Default data is that data which is just available to you immediately when a person lands on your site. So we are marketers here, and campaigns is what we do. Campaigns is a really good option here. Knowing someone came in from the marketing collateral that you set up for a campaign is one of the easiest data points to personalize with. There's other default data points available. These are what you know about the customer when they land there. So where's their location? What channel have they come from? Is there a referral source? What device are they on? And even what's the date and what time is it? Now, as they spend a little time on your site, and it can really be a very little amount of time, you start gathering some data. So the customer here is still anonymous, but these are journey-oriented personalization tactics. This is what you use when you want to move customers up your value scale towards the highest value goals. So think about moving a customer from an anonymous goal to one where you can get them to identify themselves. Think about how you would change the experience for them if it's their second visit or third visit, particular pages that they have looked at, etc. Next comes profiling. So profiling or personas is a thing that we do in Sitecore. I'm going to explain a little bit what it is. But basically, it's predictive personalization. So we are able to predict the type of content an individual may consume based upon the content they've already looked at. Because we know you've read this content, we are showing you more content like it or things that we think are relevant. And the next is integrated data, where a customer has given you explicit permission to use their personal data to improve their experience. You might use things like past purchase history or CRM data to provide an extremely tailored experience to them. Typically, this occurs after identification through a form or a login. And finally, and honestly, there's not a lot of people in this category, is open data. This is really the combination of all four of the previous stages plus third-party data. It is open, things like weather or health information that you can marry with other data points. This concept, as I said, still very much in its infancy, but we do have customers who are working with this, and there are some really interesting options available. So what I want to start with is having a look at some of these data points that need to be configured within Sitecore in order to help identify your customer segments. So goals are one of the obvious ones. Goals are configured in Sitecore to measure the engagement of certain interactions, such as completing a form, downloading a file, visiting a page, or clicking a link. Now, both the goal trigger itself and the value associated with it is not only used to measure personalization, but it can be used to create a segment using the personalization rules. So if we go back to our customer journey, you would configure goals here for the completion of the webinar sign-up form, downloading the guide, and requesting the consultation. Now, in addition, with some integration with a CRM or other platform, you may also be tracking attendance at the webinar and acceptance of the quote, providing an end-to-end picture of the customer journey. So Briend's going to tell you a little bit about what that integration might look like.
Thanks, Alison. So this is one of the most powerful tools that Sitecore brings to the Experience platform, which is Sitecore XConnect. So XConnect is an interoperable data exchange layer. And what this really means is just a suite of APIs that allow you to connect the Experience data layer that's within Sitecore to take in data from outside sources and put it into Sitecore. The beauty is, at the same time just putting it into Sitecore, you're able to clean, enrich, and secure that data in the process. Now, with more data that's within Sitecore, you have more opportunity to have richer personalization. And as Alison previously mentioned, that maturity when it comes to data and the effort that it takes to put in, XConnect becomes a really powerful tool as we take some of the pain out of that data input process. So not only can you take data in, but XConnect allows you to send data from Sitecore out to anywhere. So this could be outside systems such as visualization tools like Tableau or Power BI, or it could be to downstream systems and channels which need to take web content and then push it into other places. So this ability to basically push and pull data and content from other sources is a very, very powerful feature that is part of the Sitecore Experience platform, and it's baked in. So what does this allow us to do? It can also provide us the ability to have some out-of-the-box functionality. So on top of XConnect, we built some out-of-the-box connectors. So, for example, connectors to well-known CRM platforms like Microsoft Dynamics 365 and the Salesforce suite of tools. So I'm just going to show you how easy this is as we go into looking at the data exchange framework. So next, I'm going to show you just a simple demonstration of how easy it is to actually have this set up. So what we're doing now is logging in to the Sitecore Launchpad, and we're going into the content editor. Once we're in the content editor, you'll see the different pipelines that we made available. So this is the level of configuration that will be done when you're actually integrating the various different endpoints via XConnect. So this basically allows you to have that rich data being piped and out of your Experience data layer that will allow for that rich personalization. Next, back over to Alison.
Thanks, Briend. Hold on, I'm just getting to where I'm supposed to be. There we go. Right, campaigns. So another commonly used data point then is a campaign. Campaigns in Sitecore are like UTM tags, but you only need one tag instead of many. So all the other information about the campaign, the channel, the relevant customer type or messaging, etc., are configured within the campaign created by the marketers. That tag is then applied to incoming links and used for measurement in personalization. In our customer journey, we could have a number of different campaign tags implemented. So you'd have a campaign tag for the Facebook promotion, which would absolutely be an excellent first choice. Simple setup and a rich source of data to help you measure the effectiveness of the campaign and to personalize based on the targeting or messaging. Of course, this can be done to any kind of external link, paid search, display, video, social channels, even affiliate links. These are sources of traffic acquisition that you spend money on. So creating a custom segment here to target for a great experience is a really good quick win. So in addition, all those emails are providing a rich source of data. Now, if you were using Sitecore Email Experience Manager to send all your emails, you'll automatically be able to track the traffic from those emails and put them into a rich marketing automation journey, including cross-channel personalization. If you're using another email platform, integration, or possibly you might need to create campaign tags and attach them, but it's quite doable. Briendra, do you want to talk about Email Experience Manager a little?
Sure, thanks, Alison. So when we look at email, some of the challenges that we typically face are having various disparate tools that need to pull data and content from various locations in order to deliver what would otherwise be a very simple email campaign. So Sitecore Email Experience Manager allows you to create automated email campaigns based on the segmentation and profiling that we've previously discussed, and with the same personal and customer data that we would use to personalize the site experience, be that on the web, app, social, etc. So it's a consistent message that goes out to the customer across all digital touchpoints. With Sitecore EXM, Email Experience Manager, you're also able to gain insights into the true value of a cross-channel campaign, not just the simple clicks, open rates, delivered kind of metrics that you would typically get on just a simple email platform. You're also able to measure the value of that email channel all the way to purchase. So the creation of these automated email campaigns is also very valuable as well. You can run these based on triggered events or on a scheduled basis. And as we previously mentioned, because we're delivering as part of the Sitecore platform, we can customize these emails and personalize them, again, based on these segments and profiles. So it's really, really powerful. And then finally, the campaigns and targeted marketing can happen through the platform. So all of the campaign tracking, all of the optimization, and the data that's retrieved from them all in one place. So that can push a circular flow and drive further personalization and insights. And this leads me nicely onto marketing automation. With marketing automation, we provide marketers with a very simple drag and drop interface that allows them to move from a whole spectrum of different marketing automation campaigns, from the very simple to the very complex. And we actually provide some templates to help you do these for some key use cases, such as cart abandonment, for example. And again, we're able to leverage all of the data that's within the platform. And I'm very careful to say here, within the platform, because remember, we previously discussed XConnect. So this could be data that comes from other sources. So this could be data that comes from offline sources, such as your call centers or your CRM systems. So by leveraging all the data that's in the platform within automation, every click, page view, form complete, email response, or offline communication can be used to build one-to-one communication plans. And with those out-of-the-box automation actions, together with the EXM, the Email Experience Manager connections, means automated emails are just one click away and always ready for your customers, depending on which goal or event they've triggered. Back over to you, Alison.
Thanks, Briendra. By the way, if you want to get more information on how Sitecore marketing automation works and integrated data, then I really strongly recommend you look at the next webinar, which I'll tell you about at the end of today. So one more important piece of data that I wanted to look at for you, which is implicit profiling. So as I said, this is the ability to sort customers into segments based upon the pages they view. Now, it's important to understand this is all set up by the marketers, and once implemented, it profiles your customers into what we call a pattern, updating in real time and adjusting dynamically to their patterns of browsing. So in our example, the customer began at the home page where, because it's a generic page, they're not going to accumulate any profiling points. However, after the webinar confirmation email, they came back to the site and visited some pages. So they browsed to an article and they started to accumulate some profile values. Then they viewed a product page and the profile values built, so their pattern match narrowed. Finally, having viewed at least three pages, the pattern match is completed. They're a family with children interested in home automation. Now, if the visitor then goes on to view other content and pages, their pattern match, of course, will change and update. So they're not stuck in that forever. Right. So we've captured a lot of data, even at the early stages of this journey, all in Experience database. So how do you then choose the top segments to optimize for? Well, SBOS uses a framework called PI, Potential, Importance, and Ease. Potential indicates how valuable is it to the business to provide a better customer experience for this segment. Based on your knowledge of the market, how much impact can you make by acquiring more of these customers? And then importance is about volume. So generally speaking, the bigger the segment, the better, for a fast result and a larger return on investment. So how many customers can you expect to fit into this segment? And finally, ease. How easy is it to identify the segment? Do you have the data you need already, or can you get it? This goes back to the data value curve. Integrated data is very valuable, but it takes a lot of effort. I really encourage you to look at the default data that would be available to you. Look at the things that are easily configured, like campaigns and goals and profiles. These are great places to start. Now, you look at the intersection of these 2 points for the best customer segments. Now, for me, looking at that data, I'd be targeting customers who are families with kids. I'd expect a fairly large audience in there, and with my knowledge of the market, I know that they are an audience that likes to spend on things like home automation and appliances. So I've identified that segment as a key group, and now I need to document it. So this involves a few key pieces of information. What are the characteristics of this customer segment? They're busy, they want to make their life easier, they're homebodies, they're willing to spend to be comfortable, who isn't really? They will need knowledge, they need to understand what they're choosing, particularly in this area around home automation. And then what are their identifiers? How are we actually identifying this customer segment? In this case, we're going to use campaign tag, we're going to use profiling, and maybe some of the form data. Then what are the primary channels? We know that they're going to be coming from Facebook, maybe pay-per-click ads. And what is the customer intent? Well, they want to understand the options, and then they're ready to spend, but they want to make sure they're making the right decision. And then what is an example of the kind of content that they want? The webinar, guides, family-friendly tech articles, etc. So you basically build this out, and you build that out for each of your top segments. Not every segment, don't need to go overboard, but the top segments. Having done that, you're ready to move on to the next step of the digital relevancy mapping exercise. Okay, so you need to develop a customer journey map. Now, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because that would be an entire webinar on its own, or in fact a multi-day workshop involving numerous stakeholders and lots of sticky notes and whiteboards. But we will have a look at it in brief. Before we do that, we have another poll. So we wanted to find out how many of you have actually done customer journey mapping and or created customer personas for your business. You'd be surprised how many companies think that they haven't done it and other companies have, but it's actually not that terribly common. And don't worry, you can do a digital relevancy map without it. So you should be able to see that poll on your screen right now.
Yeah, it's a really encouraging result. 62% saying yes, they've done that.
Excellent. To do a digital relevancy map then.
And just to remind everybody that the recording of this webinar will be sent to you after the session.
Excellent. Okay, so let's go back and have a look at our customer journey. Yeah, so there are many ways of building a customer journey map, and this is one of them. However, they all generally include the same information. Across your selected segment's journey, you map out a number of pieces of information from acquisition to conversion, and then you brainstorm this for each segment. So at each step through the journey, we have only 3 steps in this one, but of course you may also include post-purchase steps such as usage and loyalty, or build out the pre-purchase journey steps in more detail. So you want to have a definition of that step. What is the customer's intent at this step? And then the touch points. How and where is the customer interacting with you at this stage? Once upon a time, of course, those customer touch points may have included in-store shopping, pop-ups, etc. But at this stage, it's probably going to be largely digital, maybe some phone, email, etc. And then activities. What actions do you expect or hope the customer to do at this step? You may, of course, add in other data, such as pain points, the data points that you hope to collect at each step. What kind of, you may have references from a customer, or, quotes that you can add in there. You might have, images. So, for example, at the acquisition stage, this may be what your customer journey maps looks like for the families with kids segment. So they're at the journey step of acquisition. Their definition is that they're trying to make their life easier. They're researching the use of home automation to do this. The touch points would be social and search. Review sites, friends and word of mouth are definitely going to be a thing. And of course, the website. So then their customer activities would be things like viewing ads, clicking through from the ads, reading articles, and looking for help. That's a very brief look at what a customer journey map looks like. As I said, it's a whole other piece of work that we're not going to get into in too much detail, because what we really want to do is create the digital relevancy map. Right, oops, hold on. So with your customer segments identified and the customer journey maps created, you are ready to create your DRM. So the DRM framework contains 3 key sections: customer intent, calls to action and goals, and persuasive content. So now you build on your customer journey map and you add in some extra data points. For example, the customer intent. What is the customer's intentions at this stage of the journey? For example, they may be comparing to other offers, finding a specific product or service, looking for support. And then there are the actions that we want the customer to take on our digital channels. So more our intent than theirs, really. Ideally, these are measurable digital goals, such as download information, create an account, make an inquiry, use a calculator, etc. And then finally, you need the persuasive content or functionality required to help the customer fulfill their intent. This content and functionality should clearly offer a difference to your competitors and engage your customers in a way that will nurture and progress them towards the next journey stage. So it might be things like white papers, webinars, testimonials, maybe even calculators and other tools that need to be created by a development team. Now, you may also add in other information here, such as the moments of truth, key brand messages, psychological triggers, company objectives, depending on how much time and expertise you have. But you certainly can start a digital relevancy map with these 3 points. For more detail about what these include, of course, it'll be in the white paper that we're going to send to you. But what you want to do is bring together a cross-functional team and workshop this out using design thinking across each stage and for each identified segment. So going back to our favourite families with kids again, at each stage of the journey, we would add in these 3 items. So therefore, at the acquisition step, we might identify their customer intent. They want to know how it can help them and how easy or difficult is it to use. Then the calls to action. These are the goals, remember, that we want them to take, including things like signing up for the webinar, downloading the guide, reading some articles. Also, if we have a newsletter, which is hopefully in a good personalised marketing automation campaign, then we might want them to sign up for that too. And then what content do we need to enable this? And this is probably going to be a fairly long list, but it's really worthwhile doing. So we need a personalised guide. We don't want to just give them the regular home automation guide. We want to talk to them about home automation for families. We want the webinar sign up and to personalise on that page. We want articles that are targeted towards this segment at this stage of the journey. And because word of mouth is important, maybe we want to see if we can get some testimonials from other customers that are similar. Then your DRM planning continues across the journey and across each different customer segment. You bring all that together and then you have a list. You have a list of the content that you need and the functionality that you need, the data that you need to identify those customer segments and how you need to build it out across each step of the journey. Having done that important planning and prioritisation work, of course, you're ready to put it into practice using Sitecore's marketing functionality, further building on that content and interaction data that you're using to identify the segments. So you'll be able to build relevant content, show it to the identified segments at the right point in their journey, drive the outcomes you're looking for, and measure the effectiveness of the optimization, which then further feeds your understanding of what your customers want, when they want it, what content and functionality really converts, and you can continually refine and improve the customer experience and drive increased value for your business. Armed with that information, you begin to optimize the journey using Sitecore XP's powerful marketing capabilities. For example, you know their families with kids, so based on the campaign tag and profiling, you're going to change that homepage banner to suit. Now, using the default data, you know they're in Singapore, so you'll show them a local map on the store locator, reassuring them that you have local support for them. And then you'll also show them the guide that you've created specifically for this segment because that were identified as a high priority segment and the DRM identified that they needed the content created. Now, as you run that personalization, you learn more about your customers and their wants and needs. By using Sitecore's inbuilt testing capabilities, you can ensure that these personalized experiences are truly delivering what your customers want and deserve. By putting the personalization into a test, you can compare the outcomes to those customers who don't get a personalized experience and make important business decisions based upon the results. So the test results dialog will give you the ability to see, for example, which goals converted after being exposed to the test, what pages did they click through, of course, also overall site usage metrics. Of course, all that data then flows back into the experience database and gives you more identifiers to continue to build, refine, and nurture your customer segments. And before you know it, you're going to be in that rare category, in the 8% of a company delivering a super experience for your customers. The 2030 customer that expects this now will reward you. I hope you found that useful, and you can see how the digital relevancy mapping exercise can help you become the kind of experience-centric organisation that your customers want to interact with. So these 4 guiding principles of know your customer, make experiences meaningful, dissolve channel boundaries, and be ROI and total cost of ownership focused are all enabled by a good strategic customer experience plan. And digital relevancy is how you take that customer knowledge and make it come to life on your digital channels. We see these 4 guiding principles being used by leading customer-obsessed and experience-centric brands time and again to maintain their competitive advantage. Each customer that does this with their unique nuance based on their product and service portfolio complexity, organizational complexity, geographic footprint, and business strategy finds success. And now we have time for Q&A.
Q&A. Great.
Q&A.
So before we jump into the Q&A, just to note that you can actually download the Digital Relevancy Map white paper right now. It should just be under your chat window, so you can download that as a PDF. But we will also send that to you via an email post-webinar as well. So jumping into questions, we received a question from Stephen Clark. Let me just bring that up. Will considerations of customer journeys take into consideration which specific Sitecore platform capabilities a customer already has? Content Hub versus Experience Manager versus everything in Experience Commerce?
Yeah. Okay. So Content Hub is it's another DRM, actually a little bit confusing. Or digital rights management is part of Content Hub. But Content Hub is a digital asset management platform. So it's not somewhere that you really do customer journey mapping. Most of what I've talked about today, possibly with the exception of marketing automation, is all straight out of the box in Experience Platform. Experience Manager, which is Sitecore's kind of light product, it doesn't allow personalization beyond the session. So the customer journey that I showed you was obviously over a number of different sessions. Experience Manager allows you to optimize within that session, but only within that session. So it wouldn't really work on Experience Manager so well. You could probably get a couple of little things happening, but not a lot. Experience Platform is where this kind of work lives.
Thanks, Alison.
You're welcome.
As we're quickly going through Q&A, maybe just to call out some of the results from the polls. For poll number 1, where we asked, are you currently using any tools to evaluate and characterize your customer segments? There was a even split of yes and no. So there's definitely opportunity there to start working on that categorization of customer segmentation. And hopefully you guys have seen, how straightforward it is to get started. And so please feel free to reach out to Alison and myself and the wider Sitecore team, to investigate how you get started on that journey. But maybe we'll jump on a couple of other questions. But Alison, you had something to say
Yes.
to that?
It's for those people who are not using any tools to characterize customer segments. Think about that pie model that I talked about earlier: potential, importance, and ease. So to take any kind of customer profile that you may have created, whether it's been fully built out or whether or not it's just there in your head of, well, I'd really like to target this kind of customer. The key is that you have to have the data to identify them. You need to have the pieces of information that are going to allow you to group them together. So I'm sure that you have some data. Everybody does have some data. It's not that hard to do. Where you get a bit confused is if you think, well, I have so much. So again, then look at that data value curve and think about the default data and the easily gathered data. And I guarantee you'll have some things that you can get going with.
Awesome. Let's take on another question that we have here. Do we have to create a customer segment every time? Or is there a way to have a pre-built customer segment that we can just personalize for across the site? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alton. Do you want to jump on and I'll...
No, I was going to say there's a couple of options there. You can absolutely have a pre-built customer segment of bringing together a bunch of different data points and then personalize for that across the site. So one of the ways is what's called predefined conditions within Sitecore. So you can build out a rule that says visitor is families with children, and then use the personalization rules to say if they match any of these data points, then they're in that group. The other way is List Manager, which Briendra is going to tell you about in the next webinar. I might address briefly now.
Yeah, maybe I can just touch on it quickly. So List Manager is a tool within the Experience platform that allows us to, the name is fairly self-explanatory, manage lists. So this is effectively taking the contacts, importing and exporting contacts directly from the Experience data layer. So if you think about this, we are able to ingest lists based on the identifiers that have been defined. So that could be an email address, a phone number, for example, against a specific segment. So a lot of organizations already have these lists sitting within different silos within the organization. So we can actually bring that in a very simple and effort-free kind of manner to actually kind of get that maturity curve started when it comes to kind of your segmentation process. So great question. One more question. What are the main types of pages and content that you can test for optimization? Maybe I'll take a run of that first, Alison, and then anything to add? So yes, you can effectively test pretty much any type of page within Sitecore, but there are different ways of approaching that problem. Maybe you want to test the page as a whole versus another page, or you want to test the specific components that make that page. So this could be, for example, a hero banner, a carousel unit where you have various different content, or it could be more of just the content on the page itself from a holistic point of view. Let's say if you've got various different personas landing on them via different campaigns, etc. There's different ways of, and I think the expert here really is Alison, and the SBOSS team, who can kind of guide you through that in more of a nuanced way. Alison, anything to add there?
Yeah, thanks, Briendra. So there are different ways of running the tests. Absolutely, you can do a page level test or a component level test or personalization. Sorry. But one of the other things to think about is choosing the right pages. And there's a few things to put into your thinking there. You want to optimize. You want to optimize first on pages where people are making a decision. So, an impact page of some sort. In the case of this journey, obviously the webinar sign up page is a really good option. You might also be optimizing, perhaps personalizing on maybe a product page. So, again, we're talking about home automation. If they have like pages that are products of home automation, then, they might change the description there to say, this is a great home automation option for, families or something, rather than, for empty nesters or young singles or whatever it might be. Probably don't use those languages. Nobody wants to be called an empty nester or a young single in my experience. But, you might personalize on those pages where people are making those decisions. I love a bit of personalization on a thank you page. So maybe after they've signed up for the webinar, you could be showing a thank you page with, some more content that's relevant to them, which is personalized, to continue the journey, to reinforce that they've made the right decision. And of course, things like a homepage. So we remember when we looked at the profiling and we said there was no profiling on the homepage because the homepage is generic. Well, that's a great place to personalize if they're going there. So one of the things that you look at is if I have campaigns set up and people are going directly into a particular landing page, don't necessarily presume that they're then going back to the homepage. You'll very often find people will go to a landing page. They might look at some other pages from there. You might reacquire them in the future even, and they might often get nowhere near the homepage. So I've had experiences with customers where they've had campaigns in place and they're driving thousands of people to the site from that campaign tag. But when we put optimization in place on the homepage, it got a reach of a couple of hundred eyeballs, basically. So, and that was because people were going directly to the landing page and then they were taking action. They weren't coming back to the homepage. So what we ended up doing was using a Sitecore tool called Path Analyzer, which is a really amazingly cool tool that allows you to say, I want to see the path of all the people who come from this campaign tag. I want to build that out and see exactly where they're going in the site, what goals are they triggering, where are they dropping off, etc. So using that with that particular customer, we were able to say, well, we can see that they're going down to this transactional journey. Let's do some personalization and optimization there. So again, you use the tools within Sitecore to choose that. But generally speaking, as I said, I love a good impact page. I love a thank you page. And, personalizing a landing page or a campaign page is another really good option, because why build 5 of them if you can have one with some personalization in there?
Awesome. Thanks, Alison. That was an amazing answer. Cool. I think that's it for the question. So if we move on, we're actually, that's it for today's session. I've just seen that it just come in. You mentioned that Sitecore can also track data from external sites. Is there any limitation on touch points, media, data dimensions? How do you measure the performance to drive customer data profile? I can quickly touch upon that. There are various tools that allow us to measure from external sites. So 2 main ones will be Universal Tracker and then also Federated Experience Manager. Unfortunately, I think we're tight on time. What I can do is I can reach out. I think it was Rydell who asked that question. Let me get back to you offline with a response to that. But we do have various tools to ingest data from other sources. Perfect. Just try to put that in. Okay, so that's it for today's session. Our next webinar will be on the 23rd of February, where we will explore how we can use Sitecore's marketing automation, an email experience manager, and groundbreaking AI capabilities to nurture your audiences throughout their journeys. So you can join George and Megan from our SBOSS team to learn how to streamline content, interactions, and response across all channels, executing campaigns with automated experiences, and how to avoid bad personalization. And then furthermore, we have our first webinar that you can catch up. The first half of the series, you can catch up on the webinar or a range of webinars that we've brought to you with a and here there's a link for where you can do that. And I like to particularly recommend the previous half that myself and Megan presented. That is a much more than this webinar and the next. And there are also a lot of other great webinars there with insights covering mindsets, measurable costs, and creating a content framework for personalization. So yeah, definitely check that out. And thank you very much for attending this webinar.